Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo, Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Gurave Sarvalokana, Vishaje Bhavarohina, Nidhaye Sarva Vidyana, Dakshinamurtaye Namah. Hari Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Hari Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti. Jai Gurudev. Usually when you hear the word death, it brings a sense of disaster, darkness, inauspiciousness, the end. But when you think about your sleep, many of these also may not be disaster. There is a sense of the end. There is a sense of darkness. There is a sense of everything dissolving and disappearing. But we don't consider sleep as inauspicious or a disaster. In fact, on the contrary, we welcome it. We enjoy it. We want to go in its lap. There's a lot of similarity between death and sleep. When you enter the realm of sleep, all that you hold on as you disappears. Even the closest person to you becomes a stranger. A mother who is so attached to the newborn kid, even she, when she sleeps, she has got no awareness about the kid. So everything that you think your world is disappears. And that's what happens in death as well. Death is like you sleep in one body and wake up in another. Just like when you wake up from sleep, you have not changed. The same person is there. Similarly, in death, you wake up in another body. Maybe you got a new identity, new name, new body, but you have not changed. Like every day, you may wear a different set of clothes and go to work, and people see that and say, "Oh, yesterday he was wearing blue, today is wearing yellow, tomorrow is wearing white." But for you, it does not matter. Only when you are dressing yourself in front of the mirror, your attention goes to that cloth. Otherwise, only everybody else sees the difference. You don't see anything. For you, you are the same. Similarly, the bodies may change, but you who is inside is the same. Because you, what you think you are, is determined by what's called the subtle body, the mind with its impressions. The likes and dislikes, the wants and not wants, the perceptions and misperceptions, the understanding and misunderstandings, all that you think define you is in the subtle body. And that is what moves. So it's best to recap a little bit of what we discussed last time about how Yama, while introducing Nachiketa to that aspect of existence, which continues after that, when he keeps saying, Etat Vaitat, this is that Nachiketa, what you are looking for. He also makes sure to explain the process of creation. So, in a nutshell, there is a manifest consciousness and an unmanifest consciousness. The unmanifest consciousness, when it develops a desire to manifest, it itself appears as what you call as the causal body. And from the causal body comes the material body. The first aspect of it is called Hiranyagarbha, or what we call commonly as Brahma, the creator. And from him come the Mahat, from the Mahat comes the elements. The elements in a subtle state, they become the Antahkaranas, the Pranas, the Karmendriyas and the Gnanendriyas. And when the same elements condense a little bit more, they get a gross appearance, and that becomes the gross body. So you have got the causal body, you got the subtle body, and you got the gross body. And death is only for this gross body. The subtle body also dies, but at enlightenment. The death of subtle body means the elimination of all the impressions in that body. When all the impressions are removed from the antahkaranas, then that is called as death of that body. And in a small way, during samadhi and during sleep, the mind dies as well every day. You see what I'm saying? So it's good to understand this spectrum of creation. And now don't think these are four different things. Like, when you take the light, there is a visible light, there is an ultraviolet light, there is an infrared light. They are not different. It's the same light at different frequencies. It is projecting itself like that. Do you see what I mean? Similarly, creation is one continuum. It's one. But in that, at different frequencies, at different what you call levels of perception, different appearances come, but it's all the same. Or another example could be like the white light which passes through the prism and becomes the seven lights. And these seven lights are not separate to the white light. It is just the white light, because it moves through a medium which got the ability to do something to this light. The same light appears scattered. Okay, so this understanding will help us in looking at some of the shlokas today. Yeah? Yat eva iha tat amutra, yat amutra tat anu iha, mritya samrutyum apnoti yah iha nana iva pashyati. What is here is there, what is there is here, and one who does not see this as one, or one who sees what is here is different to what is there, he goes from death to death. So basically what Yama is saying here, a little bit in a harsh tone, is instead of saying that the ignorant one who does not realize the unity of existence will keep being born again and again, he is saying he moves from death to death. He keeps dying and dying instead of being born again and again. So what do you mean? This is what is here is there, what is there is here. The same thing what we were telling, even though we may see that the manifest or unmanifest consciousness are different, Prakriti and Purusha are different, they are not different. They are all appearances in the same consciousness. Where do you see this difference? It's like saying, see, isn't wave water? Isn't a necklace gold? Or isn't a pot clay? These are the typical examples given in the Upanishads, these gold and water and clay. So The wise one, when he sees the pot, he says, "Oh, this is all clay, but it's appearing in different form." When he sees a wave, he says, "Oh, this is just water which appears like this." Rather than say, "Oh, this is wave, this is ocean, this is," and forgetting the underlying presence of water in it. So what he's saying is, this is water only. Yeah. And when do you see the difference? And also you see this is another interesting thing, that you see the difference only when you are awake or when you are dreaming. The variety of existence is perceived easily in the wakeful state or in the dream state, but not in deep sleep or in samadhi state. In the nirvitarka samadhi, when all your thoughts have died down, that blankness which you see there, also nothing, it will be here. By here and by there means what you see is here is there. It's like, another example we could give is, the white light is the seven lights of the prism. Or, some, you remember, this is more probably is more commonly we used to experience in India. When you go to the barber shop, you see mirrors all around, right? And if you see, there'll be so many of you looking all around. In some mirrors, the front of your face is seen, in some the back, in some your side. So what is there is here, what is here is there. They are not different. It is just the expression of the same in different levels. But if you think, "Oh, that is, there I can see the face, here I can see the back of the head, here I can see the side of the head, oh, these three are different," then that is ignorance. Okay? So wisdom is seeing this, that it's all one and the same. There are no differences. You see? And why do you see differences? Manasa eva idam aptavyam na iha nana asti kinchana. So, there is actually no difference, only your mind makes you feel there is a difference. Only the medium through which the knowledge is perceived or the reality is perceived makes you feel that way. That's why when the mind is asleep, either in deep sleep or in deep meditation, this difference is not perceived at all. Not just this difference, no suffering is perceived. Have you noticed? You might have had a surgery that day morning, you might be in a lot of pain. The moment you get into deep sleep, that happening in the body and the mind also disappears. You don't perceive it. So manasa eva idam aptam. It's only through the mind you perceive the difference. And one who gets stuck in this mind, one who starts perceiving the reality through the mind alone and thinks that's alone the reality. Like we think death means the end of everything, though it is just the end of just the physical aspect of you, the gross body alone. Mrutyasa mrutyum gacchati yah iha nana iva pashyati. One who sees the difference between here and there, he moves from death to death. And here is the question of immortality. The whole Katnopnishad is from moving from mortal to immortal, from death to immortality. Here he says, if you don't get this, that there is an aspect of existence which is eternal, and your focus stays only on what your mind is showing you, then you move from death to death, death to death. That means you never go beyond the material aspect of existence. And when something material is lost, you think everything is lost. I mean, it's not just one or two people. This is the majority. Even Arjuna had the same problem, isn't it? That's why Krishna had to make him sit and make him realize that, what do you think? You cut their head, you have destroyed them? You only destroyed the body. You only cut through the elements of it. But there is something much deeper than that which will continue. So here he comes to this another classic definition which you have heard, the city of nine gates. Usually the body is called a city of nine gates. Here he calls the city of 11 gates. Puram ekadasha dwaram ajasya avakra chetasaha anusthaya nasochati vimuktah cha vimuchyate etat vaitat. So the body has always been referred in the scriptures as the city of nine doors. What are the nine doors or the nine gates? Two nostrils, two ears, two eyes, one mouth, genital and the anus. These are the nine. So the 10th and 11th, the umbilicus, which is open when you are in the womb, and the brahmarandra, the top of your head, through which prana is supposed to enter your body And if you are enlightened or achieved a particular state of knowledge, it's expected to leave your body as well. Okay. So what he says, Puram Ekadasha Dwaram, in this city of 11 doors or 11 gates, what resides? Chetasaha, Ajasya Avakra Chetasaha. Ajasya means the unborn, Avakra, the undistorted. Matter is born, changes, decays, disappears. And the change is the Vakra, change is the distortion. But there is an aspect of you which is neither born nor it gets any change or distorted. This Chaitanya, Chetasa or consciousness, Anushtaya na shochati vimuktacha vimuchyate. One who recognizes this and establishes himself in this, Anushtaya, establishes. Even if you don't establish, you become aware of it and spend more and more time in its company. Na shochati. We just now said, as long as you're in the body and the mind, that is where the pain, suffering, everything is. When you cross that, even in sleep and meditation, the suffering disappears. So one who reposes in the self, na shochati. He is free from suffering, does not grieve. Vimuktacha vimuchyate. He is free, he experiences freedom, and he also becomes free when he escapes from this body. Etat vaitat. This is that. Who is that? The indweller in this city of 11 gates, the one unborn, the one undistorted, is the one you are asking about, Nachiketa. And then he speaks in very high tones in what you call uh, what we may call exaggeration, but it's just in very, very high regard. He speaks about the self. He is the sun in the heaven, he is the air in the space, the fire in the arteries, the guest in the house. He is in the man, he is in those greater than man, he dwells in sacrifice. He is in space, he is born in water, all that is born in water, all that is. What he is saying is, it encompasses everything. The spirit or the self or the consciousness encompasses everything and appears as so many things that we think are different, but it is the same. And this sort of what we call atishayokti, it's not exaggeration, it is superlative, descriptive and superlatives is seen in almost all Upanishads. Even the Gita we see this. Why do they get into this sort of a praise for the self? It's because it is worthy of it. The company of the self is so magnanimous when you experience this nirvitalka samadhi, where a thoughtless, a timeless state is so blissful, so joyful that it brings out these superlatives. You know, the highest joy that a human being can experience through the senses is the pleasure of sex. Patanjali in the Yoga Sutra says the joy of samadhi is 1000 times the pleasure of sex. And there are some other Upanishads where in another Upanishad it says the joy of samadhi is 2 to the power of 20 times. That is the highest pleasure you can get from the senses. So obviously when you are experience something so magnanimous, then you are short of words to express this. And that's why there are these very superlative expressions which appear for an ignorant person. Oh, this is very too much of exaggeration in here. ऊर्ध्वं प्राणम् उन्नयति अपानं प्रत्यक् अस्यति मध्ये वामनम् आसीनं विश्वे देवा उपासते. This is what we did. These are the yogic technique as well as the truth of reality, existence. What is it? It is he who takes the prana up. It is he who pushes the apanam down. And in between the prana and the apana, in between these two outgoing and incoming breaths, the rising and falling pranas, in the junction between the two, Vamanam Masinam. Vamanam has two meanings. One is something which is short, also that which is very adorable. The beautiful divine exists in this gap. This gap is very short, but the adorable one exists there. The divine exists there. What? In this gap. And in this gap, what happens? In this gap, there is no mind. If you observe in your meditation, as long as the breath is moving, there is mind. The moment the breath stops and the gap between the inhalation and exhalation, in that tiny gap, there is no movement of the mind. When the breath stops moving, the mind stops. And when the mind stops, you get a glimpse of the unpolluted. The self cannot be polluted, unobstructed view of the self where the mind is not interfering. And what he says, Vishwe Deva Upasate. This adorable one, this divinity which exists in this small gap is adored by all the Devas. Everybody worships because this is the highest. Asya Vistram Samanasya Sharirasthasya Dehinaha Dehat Vimuchya Manasya Kimatra Parishishyate Etat Vait. When this which is moving the prana, when this prana which is keeping the body alive, see, we think we manage the mind through the breath, but it is not the breath. Breath is just like a cloth for the prana which is within. By managing the breath, what you are doing is you are altering the state of level of prana in your body, and as the prana changes, the gunas change, and so the state of mind as well. And so the stability. Low prana means doubt, restlessness, irritability, lack of trust. High prana means stillness, stability, truth, clarity, all these things. So here he says, when this prana, which is residing in the body, detaches itself from the body, what happens? What remains? What remains there? So here he's saying what happens at the time of death is the prana moves out of the body. When the prana moves out, what remains is just a collapsed structure. It's like when you get into your shower, before you do what you want, you get into your shower, you drop your clothes and move away. When you have moved out of your clothes, what is there in the clothes that are lying on the floor? There is nothing. The clothes have all their identity because it is on you. The moment you come out of it, they are just a crumpled mass of cloth. Similarly, the moment the prana leaves the body is just a clump, a lump of flesh and mass, just the elements. And this, whatever is there, what happens? It slowly disappears and gets back to the atmosphere, to the five elements, if they return to the five elements. But that which was there, it continues. That which kept it alive, that which kept it radiant, that which kept it beautiful, active, alive, gave it all these qualities, that is what will not perish. Na pranena na apanena marthya jivati kaschana itarena tu jivanti yasmin etau upashritav. Now he goes one step behind. First he said it is the prana which is keeping this alive. Then he said when the prana goes, the body dies. Now he says it is not actually the prana or the apana which keeps the body alive or dead. It is that which controls the prana, that which directs the prana. No? When you go back to this understanding of the existence, we said there is the gross body, the gross matter. Where does the gross matter comes from? The condensation of the subtle matter. Where does the subtle matter comes from? From the Mahat. What is the source of the Mahat? The Hiranyagarbha. What is the source of Hiranyagarbha? The causal body. What is the source of causal body? The pure consciousness of Brahman. So everything is controlled or directed from there through these different modalities. So what he says, it's not the prana or the apana through which the body is alive or dead. It is only from which the prana, the movement of prana also depends. Hanta te idam pravakshyami guhyam brahma sanatanam yathacha maranam prapya atma bhavati gautama. Now, Nachiketa, I'm going to tell you what happens when the body dies. What happens to the soul? We also discussed last time what is the Jivatma. Jivatma is the subtle body in association with the causal body. Paramatma is the Brahman. So that's why they say the city of nine gates is called the Pura. Pura means, and the one who is indwelling is called the Purusha. So the Purusha is the eternal, and the Jiva is the causal body along with the subtle body. Now he says when the gross body drops off, is perishes, what happens to the subtle body? योनिम अन्ये प्रपद्यन्ते शरीरत्वाय एहिनः स्थानुम अन्ये अनुसमयन्ति यथा कर्म यथा श्रुतम्. Now, this subtle body, once it releases itself from the gross body, what does it do? Where does it roam around? Now, today is a weekend. You said, okay, today is a weekend. What I have to do? I have to go to a restaurant and eat. Which restaurant will you go? Somebody who likes idli vada will go to a South Indian restaurant. Somebody who likes North Indian food, he goes to another restaurant. Somebody who likes this type of food will go to this restaurant. Somebody who goes will go to a pub. Some will go to another restaurant. So depending upon your taste and desires and vasana, you go to different restaurants. Everybody does not go to the same restaurant. This is what he says. Yoni manye prapadyante. The soul goes on the lookout for another body, depending on what? Yatha karma yatha shrutam. Depending upon how much it has awakened in knowledge and how much karma impressions it has accumulated, that is what directs it to find out that type of body. Just like you prefer this, so you go to this restaurant, or prefer that, go to that restaurant. Similarly, the vasanas, which are the subtle body, will take this body towards another available body where its desires can be fulfilled, where its aspirations can be achieved. Sharirattvaya Dehinaha. Most of the human beings will be born again as human beings. Maybe the quality of the body and the environment they are born may change. But there are a few of them, Sthanum Anye Anusamyanti. They may be born as inert objects like stones and plants, something which cannot move. Sthanum means that which is stationary. Now, if you listen to some of the Gurudev's talk, he says, even Krishna tells in the Gita, the impressions at the last moment of death are the ones who determine the next birth. Now, if somebody dies in deep sleep, not even aware, unawareingly if they die, it is said that some of those people who are born like Jada, because they died in a very deep state of inertia. An enlightened person leaves the body in the state of full awareness. An ignorant person leaves the body in sickness or in dreaming or in delusion or in panic. Whereas somebody who dies in their sleep, they live without knowing anything. See, surprisingly, we all, some of us even wish for death like that. You say, oh, or somebody who is suffering, they say they should just die peacefully in their sleep. They should not suffer or things. But it's a retrograde step. When you don't die in awareness, it's a very retrograde step that it is said that you manifest as that inert aspect of existence which you were when your soul left the body. Yah esha sukteshu jagarti kamam kamam purusha nirmimanaha tata eva shukram tat brahma tateva shukram tad brahma tadeva amritam uchyate tasmin loka shrita sarve tadau na atyeti kaschana etat vaitat. Now this shloka in another form you can see in the Gita again. He says, when describing a yogi, Krishna tells, yogi is one who, when the world is asleep, he is awake. Here it says, again speaking about the consciousness, it says, he is awake when one is asleep. When the body sleeps, when the mind sleeps, the consciousness is still awake. And this awake consciousness shapes the objects of endless desires, means it directs the life in this body towards the desires through those karmas. In the Gita, Krishna says, I stay in the heart and depending upon the karma, I direct the body and the mind to move in that direction. Here, this is what here he is saying, that this awake, ever awake consciousness shapes the objects of endless desires. Means it directs the soul once the leaves its body towards its desired aspirations and takes it towards those particular bodies. He alone is pure, he alone is Brahman. Tateva Shukram, Tat Brahma, Tateva Amrutam Uchyate. That is the auspicious one, that is Brahman, that is eternal. Tasmin Loka Shritaha. In it rests all the worlds. See, in the sky, the whole existence is there, is enclosed. Similarly, in the consciousness, the whole world exists. Sarve tadau na ityeti kaschana. Nothing transcends it. There can't be anything beyond the consciousness. Everything is enclosed within it. Everything is in it. There is nothing, even this space which we think in which everything is floating is in the consciousness. I mean, once again, don't get the feeling that in means it's like some sort of a pot and in which everything is put in. No, no, no. It is encompasses everything. It is so infinite and eternal that everything appears in it. Etat vaitat. This is that. अग्निर्यथा एको भुवनं प्रविष्टः रूपं रूपं प्रतिरूपः बभूव एकः तथा सर्वभूता अंतरात्मा अंतरात्मा रूपं रूपं प्रतिरूपः बहिः च. Now he gives a few examples. It is once again very popular example. He says, just like one fire enters the world and takes various form. See, fire is indicative of life. So when death happens, what happens? The first thing that happens is the body cools down, isn't it? When the bodies become cold, you say, oh, the life has gone. The prana is also referred to as fire in the body. Yeah. So just like the fire enters this world and takes different shapes. Say, for example, the same fire can express in one person as anger, in another person as hunger. One person as passion, another person as obsession. One person as lust, another person as something else. Okay, as criticism. Okay, so or as sharpness. The fire can also express itself as sharpness, as awareness. So the same fire can take various forms, but it is actually the same fire. The fire is not different, it is expressing itself in different ways. Similarly, there is one self within all beings. It takes various forms, but still transcends the form. Rupam rupam pratirupah pahihicha. It takes various forms, but it is beyond the forms. And similarly, he gives an example of air as well. Just like one air enters the world and takes various forms, the one self within all beings takes different forms. And then this is another very popular shloka. And again, similar shloka is there in the Gita. Surya yata sarva lokasya chakshuhu na lipyate chakshushaihi bahya doshaihi ekah tata sarva bhuta antaratma na lipyate loka dukkena bahyaha. Eyes are, sun is the eyes of the creation. It's only through the sun the creation becomes obvious to you. And just like the sun is untouched by the defects either in the eyes or the external objects it illuminates, the one self which is the indweller in all being, Sarva Bhuta Antaratma, this one self, the consciousness which is the indweller of all beings, Na Lipyate Loka Dukkhena Bahyaha. Now this is two words. One is Bahya, one Antara. There is Antaratma and Bahya, which means the indweller and the external aspect. The material aspect of creation is always considered as external, the body and the mind. Yeah, and the world is external. The mind is always going out towards the world through the senses. So one who stays away, he is immersed in misery, dukkha. But the one who traverses inward, he becomes free from dukkha. So here he says, why he becomes free? Because the dukkha or the suffering does not touch the antaratma. This one self, which encompasses all beings, will not be touched by the external miseries or the miseries of the event and sufferings of the world. How? Just like the sun illuminates everything. But if the objects which it illuminates, if they have defects, say for example, if there is a blind person who cannot see the sun, but the blindness does not affect the sun. Whatever is the defect of the object the sun illuminates, the defects will not touch the sun. All these are external to the sun, what it illuminates. Similarly, the consciousness illuminates all the body and the mind, and all the events and the miseries that are happening in the body and the mind will not touch the consciousness. In other words, there is no death or suffering to the consciousness, but the death and suffering is only for the body and the mind. And even the mind, after a very long time, the death happens. The death mainly is for the physical body. The suffering continues in the mind. But one who realizes the existence of the self and gets established in it, he has neither death nor suffering. एको वशी सर्वभूतरंतरात्मा एकम रूपम बहुधा यः करोति तम आत्मस्थम ये अनुपश्यन्ति धीरः तेषां सुखम शाश्वतम न इतरेषाम. Yama also says, well, one who gets stuck in the mind, one who gets stuck in the matter itself and does not see or does not recognize the presence of this Antaratma, the indweller within you. Who is this? This one ruler, Eko Vashi. Vashi means controller. Sarva Bhuta Antaratma, one who dwells inside and controls everything. Ekam Rupam Bahuda, though one appears in various beings. Tam Atmastam Ye Anupashiti, the wise one, the Dhira, who sees this consciousness within himself, that it is running him as well. Tesham Sukam Shashvatam Na Itaresham. Only his joy is permanent, not the others. Others means one who does not see the self, one who does not recognize the self, one who does not dwell on the self. His joy is temporary. Nitya anityanam chetanas achetanaam eko bahunam yo vidadhati kaman tam atmastam ye anupashyanti dhiraha tesham shanti shashvati na itaresham. One who sees the eternal within the perishable, one who sees the alert, alive consciousness within the inert body, though one but fulfills all the desires. This one consciousness, depending upon the subtle body's vasanas, pushes you towards those desires. And the person, the wise one, the dhira, who sees this within himself, only his peace is eternal, not the others who don't see this. See, why do you enter into sleep willingly and joyfully and not into death? Because you know that you are eternal beyond that sleep. You continue beyond that sleep. That is why there is joy and peace in the sleep. But when the same awareness comes to you regarding death, then when you realize that it is the body that disappears, in fact, I leave a useless and a used up body, and because this is no more capable of fulfilling my desires, I go and pick up a new body. Just like I'm so tired of these old clothes, I drop them and pick new clothes. And how I rejoice the new clothes and how I easily discard the old clothes. Similarly, the wise one is able to just let go of the body and then move on. This is a shloka from the Gita, very on similar terms. Krishna says, Idam shariram kaunteya kshetram iti abhidiyate etadyo veti tam prahu kshetragna iti tatvidaha kshetragnam mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. Says the body is this individual body is called as the field or the city, and the one who dwells in is called as the Purusha or the Kshetragna. And know, Arjuna, in all the beings, I am the only dweller. I am the one dweller in all the beings. So, similarly, here in the Upanishad, it is saying there is one consciousness which lights up everything, illuminates all beings. It's just like one sunlight can illuminate all the rooms in the house and all the houses in the city or in the country. Similarly, it is one self which can illuminate all existence. Tat etat iti manyate anirdeshyam paramam sukham katam nu tat vijaniyam kimu bhati vibhati va. So this probably is asked by Nachiketa. He says, this or that, what you are saying, etat vaitato yama, I am told it is the seat of indescribable, unending bliss. But how do I recognize this self? Does it shine? Like somebody says, look, this house is illuminated by the sunlight. Oh, where is this light coming from? Oh, look there, there is the sun. He's saying, just like the sun illuminates the objects, what illuminates this self? Does it shine by itself or something else illuminates it? And then Yamasi, this is another very popular shloka. Na tatra surya bhati na chandra tarakam na ima vidyut bhanti kutah ayam agnihi tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam tasya bhasa sarvam idam vibhati. It's so beautiful. So, such a heavy shloka. He says, Na tatra surya bhati na chandra tarakam. Neither the sun nor the moon or the stars are needed to illuminate that. Na ima vidyut, not even lightning. Kutah ayam agni. What about this little lamp which is there in the house? So, when it does not need a sun or a moon or a star or even the lightning to illuminate it, what about this little lamp? Tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam. Actually, it is in his light all these shine. The sun gets the light from him, the moon gets the light from him, the stars and the lightning and the lamp, the fire in the lamp, all these are the light in them is sourced from that consciousness. Tasya bhasa sarvam idam vibhati. Everything is perceived, is seen only through this light of consciousness. All other lights are seen only in the light of this consciousness. In Adi Shankara makes a very beautiful comment in the commentary in the Katnopnishad. He refers to another shloka in I think in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad or Chandogya Upanishad, where there is a discussion between uh, a disciple and the master. So the master asks the disciple, uh, how do you see everything? This is regarding a question when the disciple asks, what is the self? What is Atma? He says, how do you see everything? He says, yes, obviously through the sunlight. Okay, when the sun is not there, how do you see this? He says, by the moonlight. He says, okay, when the moon is also not there, how will you see these things? He says, maybe with the help of a lamp. Okay, the lamp is also, there is no oil in the lamp as well. There is no firewood in the house to light a fire as well. Then how will you see? Then this boy says, maybe I see through the light in my eyes. And he says, okay, if you are blind, then how do you see? Do you see or not? Then the boy says, yes, I see through my inner light. He says, yes, oh boy, that inner light is the self. So here the Yama says, this light through which everything else is illuminated, whether it is enlightenment or ignorance, both are from the mind itself, in the mind itself, and both are illuminated by this light of the self. So, na tatra surya bhati na chandra tarakam na ima vidyut bhanti kutah ayam agnihi tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam. Only in his light everything is illuminated. Tasya bhasa sarvam vidam vibhati. In his light everything shines. So there we end the second section of the second chapter. Okay. Om Namah Shivaya. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् लोका समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु लोका समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु लोका समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु ओम शांति हरि श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि